The heartbreaking story of the founder of 051YM, who is well known in the streets of Southside Chicago as Rilla, is one that leaves a lasting mark on anyone who hears it. Rilla is highly honored and recognized in his community as the founder, the enforcer, the mastermind, the bully, and the shooter. He is the man behind the secretive and feared demon gang of 051 Young Money, or also known as 051YM, a criminal group organization notorious for its ruthlessness, bloodthirsty reputation, and unwavering control over certain corners of Southside Chicago. For many, Rilla represented both power and danger, a figure whose name alone commanded respect, fear, and recognition in equal measure. 051YM, Rilla being shot and killed, is, without a doubt, one of the saddest, most shocking, and deeply tragic events to emerge from the streets of Chicago in recent memory. His death has sent ripples of grief, disbelief, and sorrow through local communities, social media platforms, online forums, and even mainstream news outlets. People who knew him personally, as well as those who only knew his story from afar, have been left struggling to process the loss. Just a few days ago, Wu of 051YM held a balloon release in his memory. This small, symbolic tribute was a heartfelt moment intended for friends, family, and fans alike. A pause, a moment to reflect, to grieve together, and to honor a life that had impacted so many. The balloon release was meant to celebrate Wu's life, to remember the moments, the struggles, and the triumphs, and to provide a shared space for mourning. And now, so soon after, another tragedy has struck the same group. Rilla, a central figure, and one of the original founders of 051 Young Money, has reportedly been shot and killed. This new loss adds another layer of grief to a community already reeling from repeated heartbreak, leaving those who knew him with questions, sorrow, and a profound sense of loss. His story is not just about crime or violence. It is about a life that was intertwined with the struggles, the power, and the realities of the streets he called home, a life that ended far too soon, leaving behind memories, legends, and the echoes of a man who shaped a part of Southside Chicago in ways both feared and admired. The news of Rilla's death hit hard. It shook people deeply because Rilla was not just any member. He was one of the people who built 051 Young Money from the ground up. His presence was significant. His reputation commanded respect. His influence extended beyond the crew itself into the streets, into communities, and among younger members who looked up to him. He was someone whose name carried weight, a name that people feared, respected, and admired. Losing him is not just a personal loss for friends and family. It is a huge blow to the crew itself and to everyone connected to them. People are not taking this lightly. This is a serious and devastating moment, one that will be remembered for a long time in the history of Chicago street life. Almost immediately after the news broke, conversations about retaliation started spreading like wildfire. When BayZoo was killed, it was reported that Zoo wanted 20 people killed for every single death. At the time, many thought this statement was simply talk, hot words spoken in anger, bravado meant to intimidate, or just exaggeration to create fear. But now, in light of recent events, many are starting to believe that those words were not empty threats. They were warnings. People on the streets, in the neighborhoods, and online are taking them seriously. The environment is tense, the pressure is building, and it feels like retaliation is already in motion. What makes the situation even more shocking is the fact that Wu hasn't even been buried yet. People are still asking questions. Was there even a real funeral? Was there a moment to gather, mourn, or pay respects properly? From what has been reported, the only acknowledgement of Wu's passing so far was a balloon release. There was no full ceremony, no long period to grieve, no time for communities or loved ones to come together and honor his life. Everything is happening too quickly. One tragedy seems to follow another without pause, without rest, without any time for healing. The momentum of violence seems unstoppable, and the speed at which it is unfolding is frightening. Because of this, the idea of 20 for 1 is starting to feel very real. For those watching from the outside, it is no longer just a threat. It feels like a promise being acted upon. When a major figure of THF, such as BayZoo, is killed, the response is often swift, severe, and brutal. And now, after Rilla's death, the streets are seeing exactly that. But even with all of this, the harsh truth remains. Nobody truly wins. Every single death only creates more grief, more revenge, and more pain. The cycle of violence seems endless. Many believe that 051 Young Money may have been involved in BayZoo's death, and the intensity of retaliation that has followed only strengthens that belief. You cannot kill a main figure of a gang like THF and expect nothing to happen afterward. History has shown time and time again that violence breeds more violence. There is never a situation where a killing happens and nothing follows. Every act of aggression creates a reaction. The streets remember and they respond. The pattern is becoming clear. First it was BayZoo, then it was Woo, and now it is Rilla. And the burning question on everyone's mind is, who will be next? Names are being dropped online. Rumors are spreading fast. People are saying that bodies are falling one after another. And with the 20-for-1 threat looming, many are beginning to realize that Zoo may have been serious. Whether the numbers are literal or symbolic, the situation is extremely tense, and fear is present on both sides. Some people online attempt to keep score, comparing losses and gains, but that kind of thinking is misleading. At the end of the day, every person involved is human, and all humans face death. All the trolling, disrespect, bragging, and counting do not change the ultimate truth. Life is fragile, and none of this will matter when the time comes. Mortality renders all street scores meaningless. Right now, it seems like the losses are happening rapidly, one after another. Many believe that actions are being carried out especially hard to honor Zoo's name and to fulfill the 20-for-1 promise. The tension is palpable. Some are saying that 3 people have already been killed, and that 17 more are supposedly targeted next. Whether those numbers are exact or just speculation, the situation is undeniably dangerous. The streets are tense. Conversations are filled with rumors, speculation, and fear. One of the other names mentioned recently was GRE. Suddenly, it seems like 051 Young Money is losing multiple key figures in a very short period of time, and the pressure on the crew is enormous. Adding even more fuel to the fire, Rilla released a song less than a month ago where he dissed the late BayZoo. Not long after that, another angle of surveillance footage surfaced online. Moves like these only escalate tensions, intensify fear, and make the possibility of further violence almost certain. Every action seems to provoke another reaction, and the cycle continues. At this point, it appears that 051 Young Money cannot catch a break. Both sides are retaliating one for one, and from the outside, the situation looks senseless, endless, and hopeless. This type of violence does not solve anything. It only spreads more grief, more loss, and more suffering to families, friends, and communities. Many are saying that THF is now specifically targeting the biggest and most important figures from 051, going after those who are most influential, most respected, and most connected. Some have even suggested that Rilla and Kiddo should stay inside, move carefully, and let younger members handle the dangerous work because the risk is extremely high. The sad truth is that the war between THF and 051 may never end. Both groups are known for being ruthless and calculating. This ongoing cycle of revenge and retribution seems impossible to break. Every killing leads to more killings, and every loss fuels more tension. The streets become a place where the pattern repeats endlessly, with no clear solution or way out. At the same time, there are also rumors that Rilla's death may not have been a planned hit by THF at all. Some are saying he may have been killed during a robbery that went wrong. If that is true, it suggests that the tragedy might not have been an act of revenge, but a cruel accident or misunderstanding. Regardless of the cause, it is still unclear who is ultimately responsible. Information is still coming in, and nothing has been confirmed. The truth will only become clear over time, but the pain and fear are immediate. As Biggie once said, "You're nobody till somebody kills you." That quote seems to fit this situation perfectly. It is heartbreaking but true, until the news of their death appears online. That alone highlights how destructive and tragic this lifestyle is. Even more disturbing is how trapped these men are in their environment. There is no true peace or freedom. They cannot live ordinary lives. They cannot go to the store, enjoy time with family, or relax without fear. Every step, every move, every action has to be calculated. Every day feels like it could be their last. It is hard to understand what draws anyone to this way of life. Living in constant fear, surrounded by violence, and knowing death could strike at any moment is a harsh and unforgiving existence. Yet many of these men never attempt to leave, relocate, or choose a different path before it is too late. When I first heard the news about 051 Rilla, I honestly thought it was 051 Drilla at first. The immediate reaction was shock and disbelief. That alone shows how tense and dangerous things are right now. During the peak of the drill era, 051 did not take as many losses compared to other well-known crews. They were strong, respected, and relatively untouched. But now everything seems to be catching up at once. Losses are happening quickly, one after another, and the pressure is building with each passing day. When people talk about the origins of 051, it's important to understand that this wasn't something built overnight, and it wasn't built by just anybody. There were only a select few individuals who were involved at the ground level back when 051 was still forming its identity and structure. From everything that's been said over the years, one of those early figures was DJ. Another name that's often mentioned is 051 Caden, though I want to be very clear and honest when I say that part isn't something I can confirm with absolute certainty. I've heard it repeated, I've seen it referenced, but I won't present it as a fact because I'm not 100% sure. What is clear, though, is that DJ and Caden, or Caden, however people pronounce it, are widely viewed as two of the most important and influential figures in 051 history. DJ is someone you tend to see more publicly. He's more visible, more active with the guys, and more frequently outside, so naturally his name comes up more often. But visibility doesn't always equal importance, and that's where Rilla comes in. Rilla wasn't just another member, and he definitely wasn't just someone who came around later. Rilla was a foundational piece of 051, one of the pillars, one of the people who helped shape what the set became. Even if his name wasn't ringing bells on the internet, within the streets and within the structure of 051, his role was undeniable. What makes this entire situation even heavier is how close together everything happened. Within a very short span of time, literally just a few weeks, 051 has taken two massive losses. First, they lost 051 Woo, and before the dust could even fully settle from that, they lost Rilla. From the outside looking in, especially if you're someone who only follows things through social media, blogs, or YouTube, this might not immediately register as something huge. A lot of people didn't know who Rilla was. His name wasn't buzzing online. He wasn't a rapper, wasn't doing interviews, wasn't constantly being mentioned in comment sections. But in Chicago, in the streets, this is enormous. This isn't just losing another member. This is losing leadership. This is like losing someone who helped keep the entire thing together. It's closer to losing a chief than losing a soldier. And even though people nowadays love to say there are no more big homies, that's not entirely true. Some sets absolutely still have big homies, people whose voices carry weight, people whose presence matters. 051 is one of those sets, and Rilla was unquestionably one of their big homies. Losing him is damn near comparable to THF losing someone like ZOO. That's the level of impact we're talking about. Now, Woo's death alone was already a major blow. Woo wasn't just known, he was a face. He was someone people immediately associated with 051. He was a huge asset, both symbolically and strategically. On top of that, he held the position of Melee General, and he was also 051 Melee's brother. That alone made him incredibly important. So when Woo was lost, that already left a massive hole. But Rilla's role was different. His importance wasn't rooted in visibility or reputation online. His importance came from what he provided behind the scenes, from stability, from structure, from resources. And sometimes those losses hurt even more than the loss of a public face. One thing that really doesn't get talked about enough is how 051 managed to remain financially strong for as long as they did. Money doesn't just appear. It takes people who know how to move, people who understand business, people who know how to stay low while still making things happen. Rilla played a huge role in that. If you really take a step back and think about it, 051 once managed to bond someone out on $1 million bail. Arrow, if memory serves correctly. That alone tells you everything you need to know. That's not something a disorganized or broke group can do. That requires serious money, serious coordination, and serious loyalty. They didn't hesitate. They came together, put that money up, and brought their homie home. That speaks volumes about how 051 operates internally. They stand on business when it comes to their people. And it's hard to imagine that Rilla wasn't one of the driving forces behind that kind of financial power and decision-making. There are always certain individuals in every set who intentionally stay under the radar. They're not rappers. They're not chasing fame. They're not on Instagram Live every day. They don't need attention. They're quietly handling things, quietly generating money, quietly making sure everything stays afloat. Rilla fit that exact mold. That's probably why the internet didn't talk about him much. Online, people focus on the drillers, the woos, the arrows, Melly. But the streets absolutely knew who Rilla was. His name carried weight where it mattered. There's no sugarcoating it. This is a major hit to 051. And while a lot of people immediately want to point fingers, I'm not going to rush to blame THF outright. The reality is that 051 has a long list of enemies, a very long list. Years of beef, multiple fronts, multiple grudges. On top of that, there's always the chance that something like this could have been personal rather than strictly street-related. That being said, timing always matters, and the timing here is hard to ignore. From the outside, this happens at a moment that looks extremely convenient for THF. It raises questions. It makes people talk. Some are even connecting it to that whole 20-1 situation. But again, that's speculation. I'm not stating that as fact, just acknowledging what people are saying. First and foremost, condolences go out to Rilla's family. At the end of the day, this is a human being, a son, a relative, someone who mattered deeply to the people closest to him. That loss goes far beyond street politics, but I will say this plainly and honestly. 051 is one of the biggest targets in the city right now. Just like I've said about THF, it's clear that both groups are back active, back visible, back moving with confidence. And when that happens, people start watching. Enemies see opportunity. Outsiders see a chance to make a name. This is not the time to be relaxed. This is not the time to move careless. This is the time to move militant, to stay disciplined, to move as a unit, to be prepared every single time you step outside. This is wartime energy. The atmosphere is dark, and nobody should be moving unless they're ready for whatever comes with it. On top of all that, there are some very questionable dynamics happening behind the scenes. When I say shady dealings, I'm talking about how certain sets interact in ways that don't always line up logically. For example, there have been claims that Gyro City feared 051, yet at the same time, 051 still has associations with people from Gyro City. Meanwhile, Gyro City has ongoing beef with STL and other sets. Right now, Gyro City Mikey seems to be the main face holding things down on their side. There were also statements suggesting that Gyro City didn't slide for Rail, even though Rail was from Gyro City himself. When you start digging into the history, the tension between Gyro City, STL, and Tuka World goes back years. This isn't new. Mama Duck has even implied that Gyro City may have played a role in Brick's death. Whether people believe that or not, the fact that it's even being said tells you how unstable and messy those relationships are. All of this leads to one unavoidable conclusion. At this point, whether you're THF or 051, if you have serious beef in Chicago, the smartest move is to stay low and move smart. Duck that taco. Because the way things are unfolding, more lives are going to be lost. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everyone involved is actively sliding or hunting for trouble. Many of these individuals are older now. They're quieter. They're not outside like they used to be. But that doesn't make them safe. It makes them valuable targets, faces, names, people whose loss would hurt an entire camp. That's the real politics of war. It's not about body counts, it's about impact. It's about removing the people who hold things together behind the scenes, the ones funding operations, supplying resources, keeping the structure intact. And that's exactly what this feels like. Rilla wasn't just a member. He was a backbone, a source, a stabilizer, and now he's gone. 2 massive losses in just a matter of weeks. They closed the year with a loss. They're starting the new year with another. There's no way to spin that positively. That's devastating. In the end, the story of Rilla 051YM is tragic and heartbreaking. Too many lives have been lost. Too many families are hurting. And there are no real winners, only pain, sorrow, and a cycle of violence that seems impossible to stop. It is a stark reminder of how fragile life is, how quickly circumstances can change in the streets, and how fleeting safety and peace can be.